time for Once Upon a Tune, the podcast about tunes where we celebrate music.
And the characters who make it. What's up, everybody? I'm Broke Poland.
And I'm Dev Jana. We're both still having our morning coffees here. And we're going to jump straight into the big idea this week, which is making the case for two bands, because it's impossible to pick one. It's even been impossible to pick four, I imagine, as being the greatest band. So these are our picks for greatest bands. And before we start, Matt, do you want to kick us off? Like, how did you start thinking about this?
Oh, well, I started thinking about it by wanting to yell at you for that being the topic, honestly. It's impossible. This is an impossible one. We're not going to please anybody on this. I'm certainly not going to please myself or you on this.
I surprised myself with one of my picks when I got into it. Absolutely, yeah.
But
let's do it. Who you got?
So let's break this down first before I just say, any bands. When we think about the greatest bands of all time, what are we talking about? Most albums sold, most famous, longevity, marketing. I mean, there's so many different things, because you could look at creativity and be like, oh, well, that band's not very creative, but they are known as one of the heavy hitters of all time. You know what I mean? Like, that happens sometimes. I won't name any names that I think that of, but it's just an impossible question, because immediately the first thing that came to my mind, and I'm not even the biggest fan, I'm a fan, but not the biggest fan, would be the Beatles.
Beatles, of course.
Right? It's the Beatles.
The default answer. It's the default answer, right.
There's
But obviously you didn't choose the Beatles, so why not? Like, what were your criteria to maybe consider someone over the Beatles?
My criteria was reinventing without breaking character, if you will, and longevity and cultural definition. And I never in a million years that thought I would say this, even though I am a big fan of theirs, but just really looking at it, nobody get mad at me. Green Day.
I'm not terribly surprised that you chose Green Day. Let's get into that. Like,
I look at it from a performer standpoint and a band leader standpoint. You have the same three guys who have been absolutely consistent for 30-something years, who, in the 90s, they were... I remember people just being like, well, you're a Green Day fan or a Nirvana fan? Like, they were the only two bands that existed, That's being kids in the 90s, like, obviously there's more. But I think about how impactful Dookie was. Like, what a powerhouse, that's a no-skip album all day. Yeah. And them, what they did at Woodstock 94 with the mudslinging, maybe the most memorable moment of that entire festival. And at that time period, it was so, like, generational. Like, the cocky, punk rock, nonchalant, don't give a shit attitude was, like, in full force. And then fast forward, they did experiment with stuff without breaking character. And then all of a sudden, they realized they may have gotten into a little lull and went, well, watch this, hold my beer, and come out with American Idiot, which is another no-skip, generation-defining album.
Their first Grammy-winning album.
Yeah, and for them to do that twice, come out with a generation-defining album, which I think both of those albums are, to do it twice and still be the same exact three guys, the same feel and vibe with just showing the growing maturity, but then play and tour their asses off nonstop still to this day. And now you get to a point where they are blatantly saying screw the president and being political on the greatest, the biggest stage, the Super Bowl, and like getting away with it, and nobody's hating. You know what I mean? Like,
no, there are people hating, but
I'm sure there are people hating, but you know what I'm saying? they're still allowed to do it. They're still getting invited to do things like that. So the people who, you know, the organizers and promoters certainly aren't questioning putting them on stages like that, because like they're just authentic. You know, they've been authentic for a really long time. There were a couple of albums there where they tried some different stuff just to say they could and see what happened, but ultimately they keep going back to their style and just write good, consistent songs for like years. I can't even name how many Green Day songs there are versus how many Green Day songs like stink. There's not a lot of them. You either like Green Day or you don't. Like, it's not a song by song basis. So I don't know, that was why like Green Day kind of popped up, because I could have went a cliche route, but the truth is, out of any of those bands I could pick, who really had the longevity, who's really still doing it, and there are a couple. I understand there's a couple, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it. But that's kind of why I went. You know, I think Green Day is, you know, looking back through history, we look 20 years later into the future, they're going to be up there with those names that we're considering now.
Sure.
So.
Cool. So your first pick is Green Day.
Yeah. All opposed?
Well, I mean, they didn't make my top 20.
I'm sure they didn't.
But yeah, so like I'm gonna do an honorable mention here for someone that I'm sure most people would expect me to choose as one of the top two. Is Metallica. Metallica somehow didn't make it into the top two. I'll explain in a second. I'm going to kind of make the case for him. Played in all 7 continents in 1 year. Built a habitat for themselves to play in Antarctica, so they didn't disturb the wildlife and everyone. Like, just a super unique. No other band. There's one other band I'll talk about later who was even maybe close to that. They survived as a metal band, as one of the original metal bands. They didn't just survive, but they thrived during the alternative rock revolution of the 1990s. And the argument can be made in a number of different ways that they're the biggest band of the time where the electric guitar was the center of popular music culture, right? Like from the advent of rock and roll until the real dominance of hip hop, which continues to go to this day, right?
Yeah.
In popular music. And as such, the band that, when I was thinking about this more, who would deserve it more than them, was Run DMC. I know I keep going back to Run DMC.
This is the 5th episode.
But again, the first Grammy winning, the first crossover, that like 1984, I believe, is when Walk This Way happened. So the guitar was still at its height. They didn't just launch hip hop in its kind of current iteration, like like I should say maybe more like version 1.0 of hip hop into the popular zeitgeist. They also resurrected Aerosmith's career. The first to be played on first hip hop act to be played on MTV, first to be on the cover of Rolling Stone. They opened Live Aid in '85. First musical artist to get a shoe deal with my Adidas. Like, there's so many groundbreaking things in establishing like hip hop on a popular platform in a way that it still exists and is still dominant for a longer time. When I put it in like years like that, hip hop has been dominant in popular music culture longer than the electric guitar was, right? Like, I mean, these guys started in 1984. What was 40 years before that? 1944. Like, the guitar hadn't been dominant for that long, and this is when they broke through. Thank you to Rick Rubin for making that decision. And not only that, but also are like as iconic. Like, you could just backlight some guys with where you see the Adidas shoes and the hat and the chain, you know exactly who that is. And the way you know who, like, Indiana Jones is backlit with the fedora and the whip, right? Like it's really kind of amazing that they hit all of those marks, busted down all those doors. And I cannot say enough about how happy I was to be able to grow up with them as like one of the main soundtracks to my life. But looking back on the number of trails that they blazed and are still like around, you know, obviously we lost JMJ almost exactly 20 years ago, maybe 21 years ago. But they were doing it all the way up until the very end. And like Daryl Mack is writing kids books about dealing with your emotions and stuff. Now it's just really, just an incredible run, and I have yet to see
No pun
another.
intended.
Yes, yeah. I've yet to see another in my lifetime another genre come to the forefront and stay. We talked about how my affection for fads that have come and gone, like trip hop or even dubstep. Like these formats that come in is okay, maybe this is going to stick around. None has had the staying power of hip hop as it has kind of since that time, and that was the origin of it. So that's why Run DMC gets my first making the case as the greatest band.
Which is interesting to me because I thought legit we were talking about bands. So I ignored hip hop entirely because I was even thinking about some hip hop artists. I'm like, no, he said bands. We gotta musicians rocking out together. That's poets. That's fucking freaking.
Oh, they're band to me, man.
I mean,
they're band. And a lot of I think a lot of hip hop acts are more crews than they are bands.
I was just gonna say crew.
Run DMC is absolutely a band.
Oh, speaking of which, I want to duck in real quick. I made a mistake on our last episode about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we were talking about Chubby Checker. It was 2025. He got inducted. My eyes are just really bad, and I apologize to everybody about that. So we'll see what happens. See if the heat comes.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I can't argue that. That's a great case for and I guess that's what makes this episode near impossible. I mean, this is just opinion and fun, but it's good opinion,
Well, and there are so many. One of the things that I think you've heard me say before is something doesn't exist unless it can be measured, and so I started looking at the measurements of what we talked about, record sales and who's in it and what's their pedigree, and it influenced my view after doing a little bit of research in a way that that actually retroactively changed the way I felt about some of the music. I don't know if that makes sense. It's really kind of odd. But on that note, we're going to break things up here at the halfway point. Matt, can you bring up the wheel? Because we're going to have Matt spin the wheel and tell us either his favorite or least favorite thing about the decade upon which it lands. And the last time we did this, he laid an egg about how the 50s wasn't on the chart. It went 60s to the 20s. So this time,
hey man, it was the start. It was the start.
Well, you have a 50% chance of it landing on the 50s today. So let's see what you get.
I'm spinning.
Yeah, you're spinning, and you're the only one that's answering. I want to see what happens.
Okay, so what exactly am I answering again?
What you love or hate about the decade that
how about both?
Chosen.
How about it has to be both?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Feel free to do both.
All right. Spinning.
Oh, just got the 50s. All right.
We were joking that that we were that it would be funny that he put the 50s on here twice, and I still didn't get the 50s.
It's on there 4 times.
Oh, it's on there. The yellow ones. Yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's on there a lot.
So the thing I love about the 50s is obviously style and music, and what came from the 50s. It was the first true form of teenage rebellion. We're controlling the narrative of the future. Obviously, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Fats Domino, just the music in general that came out of it, and really, I think it was the first decade that. Well, no, I redacted. But I think the thing I hate about the 50s was 100% the womanizing. If I can put a real thing on it, gender roles and just how fake it was. Amazing how real the 50s were and how fake the 50s were at the same time. And I love the real part of the 50s and I hate the fake part of the 50s. That's all I can It's really the answer I can give.
Well put.
So
Cool.
I think you should spin.
Yeah, go ahead and spin it.
Don't get too excited now, Deb.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Happens. I got the 50s. I mean, I don't really have much to add. Like, I love how the 50s. There's a lot of precedent being set then. Not even just like culturally and like harmonically and rhythmically, but also in terms of production. Like, we're talking about the time when Les Paul was recording Chasing Sound, and if you folks haven't listened to that, it still sounds like it was recorded in the future somehow.
It's insane.
Yeah, and so like there was a lot of the current things that we still do are rooted in that time. Like they're very clearly like that's from where they came. But yeah, like I'm not a fan of the idealization of the 50s as a cultural time in the United States, because like that was like
there's horrible stuff going on.
People couldn't vote. It was a pretty terrible time, man.
Yeah.
My dad has a great story when my dad came over from India in the early '60s. So shortly after that, this time when like he and his friends went to a state park, and they were like, "We don't know if we let you into the white or the black side of the park." It's like I don't. So eventually, they were like, "Which one do you want to go into?" But like, it's an adorable story, but it's also like very emblematic of how far we've come.
Oh yeah.
In terms of like how we treat other people, so yeah.
I'm gonna give it another spin. If it lands on 50s, I'm gonna just spin until it's not the 50s. You put it on there 4 times.
Yeah, it's a 50% chance of getting the 50s. Yeah.
Ooh, okay, 80s. All right. So things I love about the 80s is pick the hardest decade for me, because I think it was a fun time for music. I think that's the coolest part about the 80s is the 80s figured out. The 80s was kind of the epitome of fun and music and like dancing and being creative and really being yourself and pushing boundaries. I feel like the 50s established what it was. The 60s was showing what it could do. The 70s showed you what it could do with drugs. And then the 80s just kind of had it all. Like, is that a good way to go through the line of the progression of music?
It's a fair linear progression for sure.
But the thing I didn't like about the 80s was almost the same thing that I liked about the 80s. I think a lot of 80s music is better than it gets credit for. It got credit. I'm not going to name any bands or specific songs or anything, but I think there's a lot of music that came out of the 80s that is stuck in the 80s. Still sounds good to this day. People still like it. But the truth is, the staying power, I don't think is as what's the word I'm looking for? The longevity. Yeah, longevity. Because stuff from the 80s sounds like it's from the 80s. And that's great if you want that feeling and you want that retrospect and you want to feel nostalgic. But as far as it holding up to what's out now, there's just a definite line in the sand with some of the choices a lot of producers made back then to the sound, The
sonics of the time were definitely very
locked in that time. Yeah. So that's what I would say I don't like about the 80s is, you can listen to some 50s rock and roll or some 60s folk or some 70s, electric music, and it can fool you. It's a little harder to get fooled from hearing something from the 80s. Like, It can fool you on when it came out. And I know that's like a broad statement because obviously there's tons of stuff that will withstand the test of time. I'm just saying, as a whole, if you look at music that came out in that time period, there's a lot that's just really locked in the 80s. Where I think other decades, it's a little more fractured. but who knows? Just my opinion.
Well, I think a lot the '80s like audio aesthetic, like with people like The Weeknd, is making a massive comeback, and people are trying to get it to sound like the '80s now. Those who weren't old enough to live through it, I guess, and can romanticize it the way that I did Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't sound quite as like it sounds like '80s music made with more modern techniques. So it's like borrowing from that aesthetic, but improving upon it. Similarly to how the '80s pop aesthetic really borrowed from like disco and indie rock that happened before, and then it just sounds more '80s. Now this new crop is it does sound super that synthwave like sound that is kind of showing back up. I was going to say on the radio, but it's not the radio that I'm listening to. Actually, it is the radio I'm listening to.
What's a radio?
I listen to the radio a lot, actually.
I know you do.
But yeah, it is making a comeback, and even some of the fashion is starting to kind of come back around again. This 80s fashion has made like a second, or is that a third wind? I don't know. It's kind of odd. Anyway, you want to do another one? Or you want to get back into the bands here? What are you thinking?
I'm ready to get back in the bands. So let's skip the wheel for now, unless you want to spin again.
No, I'll go next with the bands though, because I invoked the mighty Led Zeppelin earlier, and I was thinking, ooh, Led Zeppelin like ticks all the boxes, right? Like this massive band who had their own airplane. They had an airplane with a fireplace in it that they would jam in. What? That's some rock star shit right there, right? They had the drummer, the crazy rock drummer who would like destroy his hotel rooms. There was the rumors of them selling their souls to the devil. It was like all of this huge stuff, and so I was like, wow, like did they sell as well as I think they did? It's like because you got to have these great songs that live for forever. You got to have these great guitar riffs. You got to have a great band. You got to have a great singer, and you have to have this like staying power. And they had great ballads too. Like if you like, is there a greater ballad than like Stairway to Heaven? I think I started thinking about great bands having great ballads as well. And having this staying power and this crossover power. So I started looking into how much they sold in their time. And following that same rubric of like having an amazing singer, a great band with a great pedigree, staying power, incredible ballads, and selling a lot of records, I came up with a totally different band that freaked me out when I was doing the research, and that's Journey.
Oh, yeah. I believe that.
Like the ballads are unbelievable. Steve Perry's voice is unreal. Everyone is crushing it in the band. You may not know this, but Neil Schon, the only member of Journey to have been there from the very beginning, started out with Santana, of course. So you got some.
The only member who went on the entire journey.
Yes, exactly. Still on it. And then in the modern sense, right? Where did Rush get their new drummer? Right? Where did they get Annika Knowles? Off of Instagram. Where did Primus get their new drummer? They got Hoffington off of YouTube. 20 years earlier, in 2007, Journey saw Arnel Pineda, just some Filipino guy just singing their songs in a bar 20 years early, and got him to go and be their singer. And still, like, they're not on great terms right now, but still with them all the way through. Like that was setting a new standard as well. When you think about it, that they were mining the new farm club for talent 20 years before other acts were. And people are still going, well, they're just an Instagram drummer, or they're just a YouTube singer or whatever. It's like, no, that is a legitimate way to become the drummer for Primus. The drummer for Rush? Is there a more coveted throne behind the drums than being the drummer for Rush? And
no.
Journey did that.
Does anyone have their work cut out for him more?
Man, she's killing it so far. I don't know. We'll see. I think there's always a lot of really weirdly dog whistle coded language about she doesn't have the power or something. But we'll see. So far, we've only seen one nationally televised thing with Rush, and those are real tough. But yeah, Journey. I was really really surprised about this. Check this out. I took some notes here. 19 top 40 singles and 25 gold and platinum albums. what? And there's
25. That's
25.
insane.
I
Like, that's
know.
insane.
And there was something about "Don't Stop Believing" that it was the first to be in the Billion Streams Club, and it was obviously used for the end of The Sopranos. But there was something else. I think Forbes called it the greatest rock song of all time. If they were looking at the number of times it's been both played on the radio and streamed and sold, like nothing even comes close. Just wild. I was not expecting that. I was super surprised. But then, exactly like you, when I was like, "Oh, Journey ticks all the boxes," it was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." You can't drive across the country like I do and not hear "Wheel in the Sky Keeps on Turning."
Yeah.
Even their like sea level hits are huge hits. Maybe the best and worst music video I've ever seen for Separate Ways. If you haven't seen it,
I haven't.
go see it. It's incredible. And like, as much as I hate it, I absolutely love it. It's perfect for the song. What a song too, man. Incredible
Yeah.
music.
Well, I think it's time to take a second and talk about like the bands we know are the greatest bands of all time.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
You know what I mean? We weren't looking for those bands while we were saying this, or while we were coming up with our opinion. We were doing everything we could to go against those bands because we already know the list. You have the Beatles, you have
Yep.
Queen, right? You have Led Zeppelin, you have Metallica was obviously on the list.
Yep.
Like
Nirvana.
Nirvana was on the list. Wait, there was more. I forgot them.
I mean, there's plenty more. You could technically probably put Jimi Hendrix Experience on there.
Yeah,
I would clearly put Santana in there as well.
You would?
There's what's that? Yeah, exactly. There's arguments to be made for bands like even the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yep. The
or
Who,
the Beastie Boys. The Who are totally fair.
Pink Floyd, like all.
Actually, Pink Floyd is one of the they were all over the top selling. I'd forgotten how many bazillions of albums they've sold, but it's like they didn't put out 25 albums like Jimmy did. The Eagles even tick a lot of those boxes. When I was doing I was never going to choose the Eagles as one of the greatest bands, but when I was looking through it all, I was like, yep, there you go. Like they tick a lot of those boxes. And Hotel California has sold it's sold more albums than there have ever been people living on the planet somehow.
Grateful Dead.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like just the ones you would think of when people who don't really care about music want to listen to music.
Yeah.
Rolling Stones. Oh, forgot the Stones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. In fact, because what led me to Green Day is I've always said that Green Day is the Rolling Stones of our time.
Well, somehow you didn't mention the Ramones in that list, but I think there's a strong case for the Ramones to be.
No, I wouldn't. Look, dude, they're my favorite band of all time, but I wouldn't put them up there with those other bands. I think they were more heroes than the greatest of all time. I think they did what they needed to do. But when I think of what it takes to write songs and the intricacy of a band and selling albums and having a well-functioning, well-oiled machine, both on a marketing standpoint and having your business together, I wouldn't put the Ramones up there. You know what I mean? I couldn't. Even it breaks my heart to say that, but I got to be real. But the one that I thought about that I'm like, everyone knows that he's in the talk, but I don't think people really realize is Ozzy. That was my second pick, is coming from singing for one of the most influential bands of all time to having his career pop off the way he did, having the story he had to tell, his badass wife manager. How many bad Ozzy songs are there? When Ozzy passed, I put on a playlist of every Ozzy song there was and just had it playing for a week straight. And I can't tell you how many times I was like, oh, I got to skip this.
No,
it's like
a bad Ozzy song is a good song by just about anybody else. Like, one of his superpowers was, like, we only had a few people who had a voice as unique as Ozzy's, because
Mm-hmm.
Ozzy doesn't sound like himself sometimes from one to the other. But beyond that, he's just writes great melodies. Like his melody, like every single song, every single verse, I'm like, ooh, this could be the melody for a banging chorus. And the chorus is like, well, of course. I don't know how he made it any better. They're all incredible. And he never he never overdid it with his. It never started to sound like Night Ranger or something. You know what I mean?
He
Where
always stayed in his lane.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But his lane always worked. It was timeless. I mean, there's a couple times in the 80s, those would be the songs that maybe I could skip, that there was a couple of them that got dated, but not enough to state the case. Like, everything was great. And again, the story. He had the rock star story. He was out of his mind. He bit the heads off bats. He had the best guitar player, arguably, of all time.
He had many of them.
Well, right, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
but
die in a plane crash. He had the whole entire rock and roll story, and
Clipped his bus while he was sleeping in the bus. The airplane clipped his bus.
I
And
know.
woke him up. Like, you can't
And-
make that shit up.
And the craziest part is, maybe, only history will tell, but maybe the greatest send off in rock and roll history.
Oh yeah,
Like-
I can't imagine. Yeah.
The way he capped off his career was like, it doesn't get more perfect.
And his like flop era when he wasn't having hits. You know what did he
The
do?
mullet era.
What did he do? He went out and started Ozfest.
Yep.
You know, like and like revolutionized, because you know, like made there was a space in between Lollapalooza and like there was like Lilith Fair, Lollapalooza, and those were the big traveling ones at the time. And then what's the Bad Brains headlined the first one, or not Bad Brains, Bad Religion headlined the first one, Warped Tour.
Oh,
And there
Warped
was
Tour.
like, yeah, so like we had these were all going at the same time.
So we're talking
There was-
like early 90s.
yeah, early to mid 90s. They
Yeah.
were all happening at the same time, at kind of mid to late 90s. And there was this space for metal that no one had taken yet. And Ozzy was like, I'm going to start Ozfest. And it was
Yep.
like, you go to Ozfest.
Oh, you're right. It
Those-
was mid to late 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember in 98, like, it was like Korn and Snoop and Ozzy. It was like, dude, no one else was going to put this together. And it was like a perfect time, perfect place. And he was just kind of playing the hits. He had this other guitarist that nobody really talks about because he didn't release any new stuff. But like Zach was like, yeah, go play with that. He even had the blessing of Zach. And so his flop era, he turned into one of the most successful, you know, things that was happening at the time. That's unbelievable.
Well, and that's another thing that I take into consideration when we're talking
Oh,
about
I guess he might have also been on TV at that same time too. I never watched the
Osbournes.
but,
Yeah.
But I think he was taking over reality television too. Wow.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I was trying to put together with thinking about the greatest band of all time, because the truth is, like, your business is only as good as your music, and to become that level of success, your business sense has to be on point. Your team, your crew, everything has to be just locked tight, and there has to be love. And man, you talk to anybody who worked with that dude, he was crazy, but
Yeah.
everybody loved him.
Yeah.
Loved him, you know. And so yeah, I was trying not to think of a specific artist and go more band, but the truth is, like, he was a band. But
Yeah.
I mean,
he was an institution. He was more than a band.
and that's
somehow,
just
yeah.
it. Like, he's got to be up there on that Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I was thinking about jumping down your throat. I was like, yo, we said bands, not artists. And then I was like, well, it's Ozzy. You let Ozzy do what you won't let other people do because he's Ozzy. You know, this is brilliant.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And the truth is, he had a lot of, you know, he had some band members switch out and stuff, but so did every one of the people we talked about, except for Green Day.
Yeah. Well, they just added people, but
But they never subtracted.
I thought about Sabbath, and I was like, nah, you know, like I would even take Zeppelin over Sabbath in terms of greatest band, and yeah, that was really that was a good call on Ozzy there. All right, so I guess those are our picks for now. I guarantee we're going to do another one of these. We also got a little feedback on our no skips episode. Absolutely, we missed a whole bunch, so we're going to do an episode 2 of that. I
No
think
skip
someone else-
albums. No skip
no
albums.
skipped albums. Yeah. Yeah, so like I think we're gonna do another episode of that. But until then, Matt, you got anything else that you want to let these folks know before we say goodbye? Or no, did you?
Yeah,
have
yeah.
music history today?
I'll spill the beans on our recording date. It is April 23rd, 2026 right now, and this will get released tomorrow. Tomorrow. So we're a day late and $1 short. But today is, going back to the Ramones, is the 50th anniversary of the self-titled first release of the Ramones, the album Ramones. And it's the album that changed my life. I remember growing up in Erie, PA, and going for walks as a teenager with a Walkman and big old headphones, that the wraparound kind. I thought it was super cool because I had one of the first sets of wraparound that like clipped on your ears and ran around the back. Oh, those were weird times.
They were.
And I remember my mom got me all the stuff in More Volume 2, which was like the Ramones' greatest hits. And then I just kept listening to the very first few tracks that were all from the Ramones' self-titled debut album. So I finally got that, and I would go for these long walks and just listen and dissect every single song. And it was recorded in like side-to-side stereo. So if I took one ear off, I could just hear guitar. If I took the other one, it was just Dee Dee's bass, and you could hear, if you listen to Beat on the Brat, there's a missed bass note. And like it just, I remember almost levitating while I was going for these like walks back in, the early 2000s, and just being like, oh my gosh, I understand every aspect of what I'm hearing. I get it. You know what I mean? And it is a definite culture defining album. Maybe one of the first true punk albums to ever come out in 1976. And yeah, it's been a staple. Hey Ho, Let's Go. That's the opening track on that album, and you still hear it to this day, everywhere, 50 years later.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's my music history for today. Is congratulations. Not one of the Ramones that were on that album are existing on this planet anymore. So it's actually very interesting. It's not very interesting. It's very cool. I saw somebody take the wall. So the album cover, we might be able to get it on the screen. We'll see. But the album cover is the Ramones all leaning against a brick wall. And every time one of them died, people would share the picture minus one Ramone. And now people are making pictures of just the wall with the word Ramones. So it's like an empty wall.
Wow.
But, so yeah, that was, it came out on Sire Records, I believe.
Nice.
So
76, half a century of the Ramones.
It's amazing that 76 was 50 years ago.
Not really. I'm a bicentennial baby. I'm turning 50 in a couple months. 4 months to the day, actually. So, apparently I'm 4 months younger than the Ramones.
Oh, you are? Interesting.
Yeah. All right, cool. So the old man is signing off for the rest of the week. Oh, wait, no. Check out onceupon-a-tune.com for more information and playlists. But also, in June here in the Twin Cities, we do a thing called Analog Avalon, and it is 3 days of live music with projected, created on-site live analog video art by our video artist, Peter West. Last year, Matt came out and was actually the first person to perform on the first day, and so I got video of the very first song, and we actually didn't even start the projections until halfway through it. So it was a test video from last year that no one has seen. I'm going to end the episode here with that today. So we'll see you next week.
Am I the Richie Havens of Analog Avalon?
Yes, you're the Analog Avalon's Richie Havens. Well put. All right, see you folks next week.
All right, bye guys.
Carolers singing their evil hymns about what the future has in store. Meanwhile, across his great old land, more and more preachers are preaching how the Armageddon's near. of what the future has inside. Well, I can't take it no more. I'm going insane from this messed up world that I'm living in. I'll do the best with it and I'll make it last. 'Cause time, oh baby, time. Time goes so fast. How? Seems to me like everything has been done before. No creativity, no originality, baby, what are we here for? I feel bad for the ones who will be raised with this frame of mind. Can't we really sit here and turn back the hands of time? I'm sick of people worrying about how they're gonna die. They sit up on their bending knees just to praying away their lives. As we take our final steps, steering towards the end. All we hear are those carolers singing their evil hymns like da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. There's too many things I wanna say, too many pages gone to waste, too many wars I shouldn't start, too many fought with question marks, too many fingers to point the blame, too many died without a name, too many mysteries left undone, too many solved the wrong ones, too many people growing old who get left out in the cold, too many problems I wanna solve, there's too many brains that won't evolve, too many good people who died, there's too many bad to stay alive, just when you think you are safe, too many people who know your name, too many words in the song, too many for you to sing along. All right. Thanks, guys.